Hello, everyone, and welcome to Alumni Talks. In today's webinar, you will learn more about the full-time MBA program at the Lancaster University Management School. My name is Zornitza, and I'll be the moderator today. I would like to thank all of you for joining us and to welcome our panelists, Robin Remke, the MBA Director at Lancaster, and four of the program's alumni, Abu Faiz Iqbal, Shima Odinma, David Atsu, and Aki Chabra. We will start with an overview of the Lancaster MBA and its advantages. Then we will continue with a panel discussion in which the program alumni will share with us more about their academic experience and how it contributed to their career development. Your questions are more than welcome, so if you have any, please write them down in the chat box anytime during this webinar, and we will take the time to address them in the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Before we start, let's just double check whether everyone can hear us. If you can hear me, would you please write a yes in the chat? All right, I think we're all set. So I'll give now the word to Robin.
Well, thank you so much, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. As she said earlier, my name is Robin Remke, and I have the great pleasure of being the director of the full-time MBA program at Lancaster University. Before we get to our fantastic alumni, I just want to give you a brief overview of some of the highlights of our program, and then our alumni panelists can come in and give you the real scoop on what it's like to be a student at Lancaster. So just to kind of give you an overview of what it's like here. There we go. These are the graduates from our last group, and you'll see some familiar faces of our panelists in this. This was taken while we were down in London at the Work Foundation. And we were working with some clients from Curve and some other consultancy companies, and we were doing sort of a case-based, hands-on experience down in London. And that's just one of the few things that makes our program sort of stand out. You probably are quite familiar with all of these various ranking organizations. We're quite proud of how we've done recently in the rankings. We take them very seriously. But of course, ultimately, we know that our program is about the people and what we do. And so I'm happy to talk about these further, but just want to kind of leave that with you there. What is our program about? Well, we have three key principles that really drive our program: responsibility, sustainability, and inclusivity. These are principles that you find interwoven throughout the entire curriculum, from the first day you arrive all the way through to your final project. Everything that we learn centers around these key principles. And the reason we do that is because that's what our program partners tell us is important in the workplace. And our panelists can sort of confirm that with us later and as they talk about their work experience. But we don't, unlike some programs where you sort of have a class on sustainability or perhaps responsible workplace practices, we don't segregate it out as part of the curriculum. We try to interweave it into all of the aspects of the program so that you can understand how these principles inform all aspects of organizing. Another key feature of our program is its practice-based learning. That's been a real challenge for us during this lockdown, as these panelists will tell you about. But even in the midst of a lockdown, we were doing our best to find ways to really focus on practice-based learning. Practice-based learning is the idea that you learn best by trying out ideas and doing them. That might mean studying a case, or that might mean engaging in role-playing. It might mean working with a live client or going and observing a workplace. All of these aspects help you understand what these important theories mean in practice. And one of the important things about a practice-based MBA program is that it gives you a very safe space to try out these ideas. You get to see how these ideas work, and you get to try them out, and you get to play with them a little bit in a safe area where you have professors and coaches and mentors to help guide you. So the risk of failing is significantly reduced, which I think encourages you, hopefully, to be a little bit more bold and to sort of expand your horizons a little bit and build your confidence at the same time. So we have a couple key components of our program. We, of course, have a wide range of modules. Our program is what we call a generalist or comprehensive program, which means you take classes from a wide-ranging area, including accounting and finance to organizational behavior and leadership and strategy and international relations. All of these areas are meant to give you a good overview of what's required to run an organization. So we don't specialize in one particular area. You come away when you graduate having understood all aspects of what it means to run an organization. And to help really sort of solidify that knowledge, we do a lot of things like trips and visits to organizations, which is always made a little bit easier when we're not locked down, I will say. But when we are able to move around again, we'll do things like travel to a foreign city to learn what it's like to do business in a different economy. Last year, we were meant to go to Prague, where we were meant to learn about what it's like to drive business in a new economy, an economy that's essentially 30 years old. And so we take trips abroad. We take trips to London, where we get to meet with various clients and program partners. We take tours of the Bank of England and meet with other essential financial elements, especially. And we do what we call challenges. We have a business, an entrepreneurial, and a consultancy and corporate challenge, where again, you get to take the ideas that you're learning in your modules and apply them to real life situations, so that you become not just familiar with these concepts, but really feel very comfortable using them firsthand. So here's a list of our core modules. As you can see, they range from sort of the financial accounting-based technical strategy, organizational behavior, leadership, and all the way to sort of the international focus, which again will sort of take us abroad somewhere where we get to learn what it's like to do business in a different culture. So again, you come away with that sort of comprehensive understanding of what it means to run an organization. These challenges we talked about, we have one is the Entrepreneurship Challenge, and I'll let our panelists chat more about this in a minute, but essentially you get to play Dragon's Den, if you're familiar with that program. You work in a group to come up with a new idea, and eventually you pitch it to a panelist of entrepreneurs and venture capitalists who have some play money, unfortunately, but who will give you not only the option to bid on your proposal, but hopefully some really essential feedback. And again, this gives you the opportunity to sort of walk through the whole entrepreneurial process, which is really important, because even if you have no intention of creating your own business, what our program partners tell us is that they're looking for employees who have a firmly developed entrepreneurial mindset and who can understand the importance of thinking like an entrepreneur, even if you're situated in a more traditional corporate setting. So everybody participates in this challenge where they work collaboratively to come up with a new venture, and then they see their way through that process. And of course, through that, you get to work with our entrepreneurs in residence and our mentors to help guide you through that process. The Consultancy Challenge is where you actually get to sort of test out your consultancy ideas. Again, working with coaches and mentors, you get to really sort of walk through that whole process of what it means to start with a client, develop a program, develop a project, work through it, and then present it, getting feedback from a live client the entire time. This is sort of a sort of training session for what then becomes the Corporate Challenge, which is an 8-week, much bigger group project where you're working with a large multinational company to help them solve some pretty big problems. Again, these guys can tell you what that experience was like in a little bit. So all of that gives you a lot of opportunity to really work with clients, get familiar with what that experience is like, and all the while learning new ideas and knowledge, and really incorporating that into your understanding. Okay, this is I'll just sort of briefly talk a little bit about our careers team. And again, our panelists can tell you about their experience. We have one of the top ranked careers teams in the UK and across the world. Our careers specialists work really hard with each of our students to not only help guide them into a job, but to really help them assess and understand what their own interests are, so that they can then pursue their career passion once they graduate from their MBA. And some of it's very technical, where they work with how to write a CV and how to find a job and how to do an interview. And these guys could probably remember going through those mock interviews where you were given feedback and helped with that. But then they do a lot of just coaching as well to help you really develop what we call that professional presence that sets you apart from other potential employees. We can give you a lot more information about this, but this is really a key cornerstone of our program. It's integrated into all the aspects of our program, and you actually meet with our career team the very first week you arrive, so that we sort of set you on that right path from the very start. And by the time you graduate, hopefully you have a real solid sense of where you want to go in terms of your career. We are quite international. I can't wait for you to meet our panelists because we literally are spanning the globe, even just sitting here on this Zoom call. And so we are quite international, as you can see from this board. And I hope that looks familiar to you guys. We're very proud of the diversity of our students. We very intentionally seek out students from all over the world because we know that you don't just learn from your professors and from your textbooks, but you learn from each other. So we intentionally seek out the top students from all over the world and all different industries. And so you'll hear from even our panelists today. They come bringing a whole world of experience and wealth of experience from various industries and organizations and occupations, as well as that kind of global perspective. And we're enormously proud of that. And it makes for some fantastic discussions and apparently a very fun cultural night that I unfortunately missed out on last year. So that's kind of our program in a very, very brief nutshell. Obviously, I'm very happy to answer any questions that you might have. But I think at this point, we should turn it over to the real stars of today's program, and those are our alumni panelists. Is it okay if I ask you to introduce yourselves to our group right now? Aki, since you're at the top of my screen, would you mind beginning?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. Thanks for attending. My name is Aki. I graduated from last year's class, which was great because did my MBA through a pandemic, which I'll never forget. I went into my MBA having worked in investment banking for 7 years. And then I joined the MBA, went through the full-time MBA experience with 55 students from 22 different countries, engaged in multiple group activities, had a lot of fun, went to many different places with the MBA team as well as the students, interacted with business professionals from all around the world, and ended up working for two very, very big organizations in the form of the Manchester Airports Group and then NatWest. And then after graduating out of the MBA, at present, I'm the regional head for the UAE and the Middle East region for a big tax company known as VAT IT. So yeah, for me, it was a great experience overall, and I'm really happy where my MBA took me. And I'm really happy about what I learned from the MBA and how I could apply that in my daily life. There's still many things that I learned from the MBA that I say in my daily life, which I can't seem to shake off. And there's a lot of things that I've been practicing quite actively. So life-changing experience for me. I'm very, very happy that I got to do the Lancaster MBA. And I'm especially very happy that I got to do it through a pandemic, to be very honest.
I'm a little bit surprised, but really pleased to hear that, because obviously it was a very stressful time and a time of uncertainty. And, you know, obviously as the director and I know the entire MBA team, one of our chief concerns was making sure you had a good experience through this, as good as possible. So I'm really pleased to hear that. Thank you for sharing that. Faze, would you like to maybe introduce yourself? Excuse me.
Yeah, hi Romania, and thanks to all the participants who are attending. Yeah, basically I'm back in India and working for ENY as a managerial position. But let me talk about, MBA, what was my main purpose of, joining this Lancaster MBA. I went for the, like when I saw the ranking for entrepreneur, best university, I saw that it ranked around top 3 in entrepreneur. So in the second semester, I got to know that, like we were working on an entrepreneur challenge. And believe me, that was such a nice, I learned so many things actually during that entrepreneur challenge for 1 week. So my whole agenda for joining MBA was to start my own firm. And I would thank MBA and the director and the team because they introduced a new module called New Venture Capital, and that probably helped me to work on my ideas, on my own business idea during the last module, where I was having an option to choose either between corporate challenge, dissertation, or you work for or you do an internship. So I think I was the only one who chose this module as a New Venture Capital, and believe me, it was such a nice experience. I made connection. I don't know. I made connection to big companies working with the team. I don't know. You may not see that in the Lancaster MBA site, but there's a team called Work in Progress. They helped me a lot. literally, I had made a connection with them. And what happened actually during 6 week of entrepreneur, this like new venture challenge, what every week I used to go back to them, they used to give the feedback and I used to implement it and then get back to them again. So my ideas kept on refining, and at the end of the the challenge, I was satisfied by myself, because when I wrote the report or my business plan, I could be, I was much more happier to see that, I have covered each and every aspect, how a business plan should look like. And especially the mentors, which they have assigned. So firstly, there were two mentors actually, academic mentor and business mentor. And those mentors were very cooperative. And that helped me to think, beyond my thinking. We used to actually brainstorm together, what you should do to differentiate yourself from others. So my whole on, I would say, what I took the most, if I considered, if I rate something, so my it was more about entrepreneurial mindset, and I got it from Lancaster MBA. And that is probably what I was expecting from the MBA. Beside, having covered all those subjects which every MBA university will teach you, be it finance, marketing, or strategy, whatever it is. So yeah, thanks for that particular module which got introduced last year.
I'm so pleased to hear that. And you're, yeah, just to sort of clarify, because I know went over this very quickly. Over the summer term, essentially, you have the option of either working on a collaborative group consultancy project, which is called the Corporate Challenge, or you can do an individual internship, which obviously is kind of like, you on your own working in a company on a specific project. Or is what Faze did, and that is where you work with a entrepreneur in residence and an academic in entrepreneurship to develop essentially your own startup business plan. And obviously this is really oriented for those of you who want to perhaps open up your own company or a startup, and maybe not even immediately, but maybe sort of down the line. And as you said so well, Faze, you get a lot of feedback and insight and help. I know it's a lot of work. I know you put a lot of work into it. And it was especially tricky during the lockdown, but it sounds like it's proved quite useful for you.
Yeah, yes, to Robin. Yeah,
Excellent.
it's really useful. And still I'm working on the prototype. So finger crossed.
Absolutely. Well, and then hopefully you've kept in contact with some of those mentors that you were working with, because I know they will provide additional support.
Yeah, actually, Robin, I connect to the work in progress team every Friday for 2 hours.
Fantastic.
So,
fantastic.
Every week I'm connecting with them, be it my purpose, but I listen to other ideas. So that is something, which I have been doing even after graduating from, August onwards.
Fantastic. I'm glad.
I
I'm
made
so
really
pleased.
great friends beside MBA, Miss, like it's like they have formed the companies. One of them has formed the speaker news channel. One Miss, like there are so many founders during those calls. So it is really interesting in talking to them and listening to them.
Absolutely. Well, and that's one of the things we also try to stress in the program is that the more contact you have with other entrepreneurs and business leaders, even if it's not an area that's directly related to your own, you never know what you might learn and kind of be exposed to. So all of those opportunities, and that's why we try to do a lot with our guests, our alumni talks and things like that. And we're really enhancing that even further going forward. So thank you. Chima, do you mind if you give us just an introduction? Tell us where you're at.
Hi, my name is Chima. I think, I'm currently in Lagos, Nigeria. I think for me, the MBA was a bit of also a strange path for me. I come from a non-traditional MBA background. I started my career in communications, working for agencies and brands within Africa, several cities in the West African region, helping them launch products into the market, and also developing like operation strategy for them, crisis management, etc. So when I decided to do an MBA, I was a bit taken aback in terms of what's the right path for me, because I wasn't interested in quite very heavy funds related stuff for an MBA. So for Lancaster, it was about the completeness of the program. I think Robin just glazed over that when she was starting in terms of Lancaster does prepare you for a proper management, like leading businesses. It's hands-on, and they say a very huge focus on strategy and leadership, which is very critical in this time. And I'll talk about the hands-on bit later when I talk about what I'm doing now. So when I went to Lancaster, it was a bit, strange at first, trying to, get acquainted with some of this finance things and starting. But to be fair, to be honest, I didn't quite know what EBITDA and EPS and what was when I started into Lancaster. A big part of the finance work. But what I found was there's a very huge level of support available.
Chima, we're having trouble hearing you, or at least I am.
Faculty and a little bit we did in terms of the project.
Sorry, Chima, you broke up for a bit. Chima, can you hear me?
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
Yes,
can you just repeat what you just said? You broke up for a minute there. Can you just repeat? This is just the last little bit of what you said.
Okay, I said that one of the interesting things about Lancaster is that there's a huge support structure for you in terms of the cohort, in terms of the faculty, in terms of the people generally everywhere, even across programs. Where you visit the lobby, people studying MSc management, and it's because it's something random, and they say, "Oh, I've done something like that," and they have a very huge community within the college and outside of the college. So in terms of being practical in the MBA program, things like your entrepreneurship, business challenge, strategy courses, were really hands-on. So now, fast forward now to what I'm doing now. So I'm working with a lot of startups in terms of governance and the governance projects, trying to get them a bit more structured, because a lot of them are, seeking finance, Series A funding and everything. And imagine the huge gap between someone who doesn't understand what EPS was to now preparing a huge lot of startups in terms of seeking funding for businesses. So you see, that's a huge gap that Lancaster has filled in between that. And most of them were hands-on practical learning in terms of, pitching for businesses. How do you put up a very good a balance sheet, for instance? Nobody sat down and taught us how to do that, but by doing that for businesses that were run up, was very useful. I also think that, I'll come to the career, but courses like, core capabilities had several modules that were quite very on point, especially as we passed through the kind of year we did last year, which you would think would mean that the value of the MBA was lower, but no. The courses to deliver value to some businesses who have sort of, done something similar like that.
Chima, we just lost you again at the very end.
Maybe someone else should go. I need to switch my internet. Maybe someone else should go and switch my internet, and I just summarize later.
Okay, we'll pass you over to David. How's that?
Maybe David, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
David, the floor is yours. Yeah. What an introduction.
Yeah, thank you. I'll be very brief. I think I have internet issues as well. Hi, everyone. My name is David. I'm currently in the UK. Currently, I'm in Cambridge. Prior to the MBA, I've had the opportunity to work across different industries. I did a bit of work within investment banking here in London, and then I moved to Africa. I worked across telecommunications and then FMCG. One thing I was looking at for my MBA essentially was a very general management program. And I think that's what Lancaster University offered me. And the key thing, or the key learning for me from the MBA program, was resilience. I think it was one of the biggest things I took away from this whole MBA. Just coming into an MBA program during a pandemic, and then having been sort of thrown deep to the end, and then trying to find your way through. It was quite tough, but I think for me, I was able to take that skill set of being resilient. And even as today's business environment, as an upcoming business leader, you need that skill set of, being very resilient in the environment. And I think that's something that Lancaster really, really does well in terms of preparing students for. The program is very intense. So, you definitely sort of put yourself into that, environment where everybody is also trying to fight for something. And I think it really helps you in that regard. And one thing I also talk about is the learning experience takes place, both inside the classroom and outside the classroom. So in the MBA program, I learned so much about myself that I didn't know before. And, key things like the core capabilities and having all these mindful manager sessions were really, really helpful. And it sort of, taught me a direct path in terms of the things I was interested in, and sort of brought up new passions that I haven't even thought about before. And also having, an amazing network of friends that I can reach out to at any point in time, and I can, ask for support. It's just incredible. So I think the Lancaster community is a very supportive community. That's one thing I've seen, because even after I graduated a few months ago, I'm still in touch with most of the MBA students. I recently spoke to Aki, I recently spoke to Chima, just bouncing off ideas between each other. And I think that's something that you really take out of the MBA program. So for me, it's been a really, really good learning experience. Overall, I really enjoyed my time there. And I love Lancaster City, so.
I'm really pleased to hear that, and I'm hoping you'll come back when we're able to move around again. We're not that far from Cambridge, just a few trains, Excellent. Chima, are you back with us?
Yes, I think I am. Is it better now?
You sound better.
Okay.
Did you have one?
I was just talking about. What David just completed with, which is the support of the cohort and everything. And I was also highlighting the fact that it's very practical and hands-on, in the sense that you are learning so much skill that you don't even know where you're going to use it until you need to use it. I just completed a transformation project where I am currently, and a great deal of the learnings were from my module. I actually had to go back to my notes in terms of learning about culture and whatnot. So it does really equip you for all-around leadership, and that is very different from what you see around. I think personally, I didn't go in there for maybe core finance and become a financier in terms of that, but I did leave with that level of knowledge that I can hold my own with a boardroom, in a boardroom of finance and everything, and that was coming from a zero knowledge. And again, that's built on support for everybody. And still back on what I was jumped earlier, career. So even at the last week, I was still speaking to Lancaster career in terms of understanding where you're going, what's the next step for you, what's the extent. That's the level of support that Lancaster offers you. There's this saying that they keep repeating, and I can feel it now. You can leave Lancaster, but it never really leaves you. So I feel it now. So because every time somebody's checking up on me, and what exactly are you doing now, what's up, and I think I think for the past year, just really expanding my network, basically a family, and having a whole new set of people who are interested in your future. And not just set of people come in and pay for tuition and leave. There's like a whole people who are actually passionately interested in what you're doing, what you do post MBA, what you're doing now, how you do what growth you have, both career and personal wise. I think that's what sets Lancaster apart from everywhere else.
Oh, well, I'm really pleased to hear that. I can tell you, we're really trying to actually enhance our alumni support. So one of the things as alumni, you continue to have career support forever. So, and I know you use the career support team quite a bit while you're here in the program and when you first graduate. But actually, what has been really interesting to see over the past 6 to 9 months is the number of alumni who have come back to our career team, particularly as the pandemic took hold and some of our alumni found themselves either being made redundant or being furloughed. We had some who were in the tourism industries that were hit especially hard. And what was really interesting to see them come back and to reacquaint themselves with our careers team. And of course, our careers team sort of jumped in and did their best to help them. So some of the other things that we're doing is we're really enhancing our online networking opportunities. It's interesting, before the pandemic, we sort of explored this, but no one seemed terribly keen to do online networking. And now I think more of us are a little bit more comfortable with that now. So we'll be hosting more of those events. In fact, we have another one of those coming up in June. We're also really focusing on what we're calling our lifelong learning opportunities for alumni. So we'll be offering master classes throughout the year. We'll have one coming up hopefully in October, so that our alumni can continue to stay on sort of the cutting edge of the research. So hopefully the one in October it's going to be on cybersecurity and risk, which is something that obviously everybody needs to know about. But the developments in that area are so fast. Even if you learned about it 2 years ago, it's probably out of date. So we're really trying to enhance that, because we do feel like you're always part of us. You might graduate, you might move away, but you're always one of us, and we're going to do our best to hang on to you. So thank you guys very much. I'm just noticing the chat. We have a few questions. I'll be happy to get to those in just a second. But if anybody else has questions that you want to post in the chat, we'll definitely take those. Can I just sort of ask, and I'll throw this out there to any of you. What I really like is you all have very sort of different reasons for doing your MBA. And it sounds like you were able to kind of address some of those reasons while you were here at the MBA. Can you tell me maybe something that you learned on the MBA that surprised you? Maybe something about yourself, something about an industry, something about a particular job or a field, something that you learned on the MBA that you were surprised by, that you didn't expect.
Okay, let me take this. I think I also one within the MBA and one just in passing out of the MBA. So within the MBA, I think my former manager was quite interesting. I have had a bit of concept in terms of navigating a very uncertain world, but never has it been more truer and more realistic than the last year in terms of where you make plans and it just goes out of the window. So that was really a practical lesson in mindfulness and how to handle that as a leader in the business world. The other one, which is a bit also like a sort of personal, the career. So we had this thing where we had I think counselors now, career counselors, will come in and speak to them and discuss your career and everything. So I have always had this concern where, I would think probably I'm too, I need the word, maybe pedantic with work, things, and takes so time and, don't have like a bias for action, basically. And, having that conversation, with my career counselor, which, like I said, was very, very happy to provide, just struck me in terms of a new realization of the fact that, it's not, maybe look at it from a different perspective. Look at it from the fact that perhaps you are passionate about this. Can you redirect that passion to making sure it moves faster and making decisions well? So that has really changed my perspective about being pedantic about things. So I'm still very detailed. I was worried about I'm being too detailed and delaying work, but now I'm still detailed, but then have a great bias for action. I'm skipping over personal details here, so please pardon the gap, but it was really very instructive for me and really changed my life in terms of how I approach that now as a business leader. So yeah, those two very critical things are very top notch for me in terms of my experience in Lancaster.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, I know sometimes those counselors can ask questions that might surprise you or throw you a little bit. Oh, can you hear me? Okay. And I know even on occasion they might give you some feedback that's a little bit critical or not necessarily always so easy to hear. But I think that's really where some of that growth comes in. Aki, you're shaking your head. Is that?
Yeah. No, I agree with what Chima said, and I think what I took out of the MBA, and I think pretty much any MBA student from last year would probably agree with that, is that we actually can't even underestimate how strong MBA students actually are in the face of a pandemic or in face of something going wrong or adversity, for lack of a better word. I just thought that MBA students, all of them in our class, they were just so mentally powerful. They were able to literally take that particular pandemic and just use it as a learning experience, use it as an opportunity for them to sort of feel better equip themselves for the world. And if there was one sort of set of people that adapted to change very quickly and were resilient in their approach, it was probably MBA students. And that's not just the Lancaster MBA, but quite a few MBAs out there. But I think, speaking from experience, the students that I was working with and, my fellow peers, what I found about them was that we had a way of, effectively improving our communication, improving our working style, working ever so hard when we knew that, we had our backs against the wall and we were going to be, working in an MBA that wasn't necessarily the one that we wanted in the second half of the year. So that was a very important thing for me, because going into the MBA, I didn't know any of this. I didn't know that people could be that mentally strong, people could, improve or adapt over time that quickly. So I think, there was a lot of personal learning and a lot of professional learning that was melded together. So I think it's very important that that particular event happened and that we were able to do something about it straight away.
Hayes or David, do you want to jump in on that? Or
Yeah, I think for me, one of the things I wanted to touch on was the mindful manager module. So, as upcoming business leaders, we all had, ideas regarding how to be, a good manager based on the sort of leadership experiences that we've been exposed to, or, carving out our own sort of leadership traits or styles. But I think one thing the mindful manager sort of opened my eyes to was focusing on yourself as an individual and not the people you're leading. Because in most cases, as a leader, you tend to focus on the people that you're leading and not working on yourself as an individual of how to be a better leader or a mindful manager. And it was really interesting and very eye-opening for me, because there are certain key things that I didn't even know that as a leader you should be focusing on. And the mindful manager module really goes very, very deep to it really provoked my thoughts in terms of how I see a leader to be, in the outside world. When I go to a corporate organization, how should a leader really behave or act? But I think it sort of puts the onus on you as the individual to be able to work on yourself so that you can be able to impact others or, the group of people you're leading. And I think it was very reflective in our sort of, day-to-day work that we did, because when we're working on our corporate challenges and other small projects and tasks that we had, we were supposed to select leaders within ourselves. And it was interesting to see the kind of leaders that, people were, depending on, what they've learned outside of the mindful manager module, and the way they were able to bring those experiences on board. It was just really interesting for us to, come up with our own different ideologies, and then learning from the mindful manager module, and then, bringing all these things together. I think for me, that was one of the biggest takeaway for me. Yes, Lancaster MBA has a really huge focus on leadership, but I think one of the things it also does well is helping you to have an open mindset, not just learning how to lead, but also having an open mindset to be able to fit into every environment that you find yourself.
Excellent. So based on a lot of the feedback that you all provided for us, we actually have restructured the Mindful Manager a little bit, and we're offering it now as a pre-arrival course that will sort of help students kind of prepare so that when you arrive in Lancaster, you'll have already had a taste of some of the key concepts and key ideas, and then we'll kind of carry those forward into the curriculum. Because as you've just said so very well, it really is a course that's kind of integrated into all aspects of your organizational engagement. So we've actually kind of broken it up a little bit across the curriculum to help with that process. And that was very much based on the feedback that you all gave us. So I'm pleased to hear that. Hopefully we're on the right track with that. Faze, do you want to jump in, or do you want to add anything to this?
What I was surprised, Robin, I think starting from the first day, what I saw, it's really the fourth point which you mentioned, right? The practice-based learning that was implemented from the first day. I still remember, it's like professor was teaching us something and then go back to the group. Now you have to decide, you have to work around. So that is something, it's like integrated from the first day of the MBA. So I would say, that was really helpful to, implement the learnings, whatever we are having every day in the first of the class, and then we implement it right away in the second half of the day. So that was.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, please.
So that was something, which I was really surprised. It's like I was not expecting that thing, because it's an MBA, right? So I was not expecting such type of group activities. So many. I still remember we used to forget the name of the group. okay, which group we are working on. Because so many group activities were going in parallel. So that was actually helpful. I don't know, probably everybody will agree with that, because so that was really interesting, and it was really a learning experience.
Well, and you do work in a lot of groups, and I know some of you had very successful group experiences, and some were a little bit more difficult. And you were working with people that you, for example, just didn't quite get along with, or for some reason just struggled with. And I'm curious. So now that you're through the MBA and in the workplace, has any of that group activity learning kind of helped you?
Yeah, it's really important, because sometimes I get into contact with my staff members, and their attitude is a little different. It's like the talking style, the communication style. So it's like we have to handle him or her in a very different way, because it's a corporate world, right? There are so many things can happen. So I think probably mindful manager is the course which is helping me to handle those situations.
Yeah. Just to add on that, so currently I'm working as a consultant, and on the projects I've been staffed on, I have team members based in Accra, Ghana. I have a team member based in Lagos. I have one based in Canada, and I am based in the UK. And we are all supposed to collaborate and work on a project for a client. And everybody has different communication style. Everybody has very different way of working, and different time zones as well. And during the MBA program, we moved online, and I was supposed to work with some team members based in Japan, and I was based in the UK. And so we had to come up with times which works for each individual on the project, which was a bit challenging at that time. So it means that we had to bring all of those experiences and all those ideas that we've learned from the mindful manager to bear. And I think for me, it's been really helpful trying to manage these team members, across different geographies, and also working remotely. And I think that was the biggest key takeaway for me, trying to be able to communicate with them, adapting to, the way that they communicate and their leadership style, and then, being able to work with them. I haven't had any conflicts with any team member. We've been able to work really well and gel together, though all the team members are scattered all over the world.
I don't think that's a challenge that's going to disappear. Aki, go ahead, please. You've had some experience with this.
I was just agreeing with David. So we've got a company that's based in 44 different countries. So we tend to speak with colleagues from around the world, and really what the Lancaster MBA sort of equipped me to do more than anything was to come up with an effective strategy of communication at the end of the day, because when you're going to be working with people, you need all sorts of skills. You need active listening, you need open and honest communication. And all of these skills came from the Lancaster MBA. For me personally, to summarize David's point as well, the Lancaster MBA wasn't just an academic degree, it was a personal degree. It helped you enhance certain qualities, which was going to make you a better team member. And I feel that I'm a much better team member post Lancaster MBA than I was pre, because right now it's very easy for me to interact with people from different walks of life and people from different cultures and work with them on a common project with common objectives and achieve the desired goal. And I know that, that was always going to be something that we were going to take away from the MBA, but the height to which we've taken it away from the MBA is probably what really highlights the Lancaster MBA more than anything, in my mind.
Excellent. It was a challenge, because I remember once we all sort of scattered, just even trying to find a time to meet, when we had classmates in Tokyo and Indonesia and Beijing and Shanghai, all the way over to Mexico City and Peru. That presents a real challenge, even just finding a time and figuring out who gets up at 3 a.m. It can be a real challenge. So we have an interesting question in the chat. Somebody who has an interview scheduled in the next couple days. This person's asking, can you please let me know what I should do to prepare? So instead of me giving my usual spiel, you all made it through the interview. Do you even remember that? Well, that feels like a million years ago, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. I still remember my interview actually with you, Robin. Yes. like, interview is just being yourself, really, and just, being prepared. For me, I tell people that if you really want to do well in interviews, you really need to come prepared. You need to ask yourself certain key questions. Why do you want this MBA? Why Lancaster? Why now? If you're able to come up with a very structured answer for these questions, then you do your research, and then you tend to have a good understanding of why you want to do the MBA, why you're choosing Lancaster, what's unique about the Lancaster program. So we have shared our experiences. You can also talk to other students. Over the last few weeks, I've had people reach out to me on LinkedIn to set up meetings with me, for me to share my personal experiences on the Lancaster program. And there's a good way for you to get some sort of inside, knowledge. And also attending these kind of events is also really helpful for you to get some sort of inside knowledge that's essentially going to help you come up with your story of why you want a Lancaster MBA. So doing this research is really key. And also just yourself, why do you think an MBA is good for you at this point in time in your career? What have you done for the last 3 to 4 years? What do you think the MBA is going to do for you for the next 5 to 10 years? And you should come up with a very coherent story to tell whoever is interviewing you, so that at the end of the day, you can be able to stand out, not only you presenting yourself, but what you also add to the MBA class, because you'll be meeting students from all over the world, very unique backgrounds. What are you adding to the classroom? What sort of experiences? Or Lancaster is really thrives on its diversity as a community. So what kind of unique experiences are you bringing to share? So think through all these things and come up with a really good story to tell, and I think you'll be fine.
Great advice. How about the rest of you? Do you remember your interview?
I think that David has really gave a robust answer. What I just want to say is, for you to get to this stage, that means your qualification is obviously very good. I mean, like somebody has looked at your application and felt this person should be a potential Lancaster material. So I think the advice whoever is going to interview is, forget your credentials and whatnot. Those are already spoken for. Come with yourself basically and tell your story, and sort of highlight all those things David has mentioned in terms of, and don't just read about, I want an MBA from any random university. Why do you want to be Lancaster? Because Lancaster is different from everywhere else. It's not London, it's not Durham, it's not London Business School of Business. It is Lancaster. So why do you want to be there? And I think a couple of things we said today has given us some insight into why you should be there, because it's a great place to be, really. And I might be biased, but it is a great place to be. So if you take that, if you really answer this question for yourself, I think you do well in the interview, basically.
Totally agree.
I think that's great advice, and certainly, and I think you're right, Chima. You wouldn't have been invited for an interview if you hadn't met the qualifications, and we already think that you're a star student. So what we're really now looking for is whether you're a good match. And so that is why I ask questions like, why Lancaster? And I have in the past said to students, I think you're fabulous, but actually what you're looking for is something slightly different. So I think it's very important to be honest in your interview as well, because the last thing I want to do is bring in a brilliant student who isn't happy with the program, and isn't a good match. We want to make sure you end up in the program that meets your expectations and will help you achieve what it is that you want to achieve. So I'm just curious, do you guys, if you could go back and watch that interview now that you've been through all the career counseling and all of that, do you think there'd be any difference in your interview skills?
Oh, absolutely.
Probably with cringe.
Yeah, I wouldn't be very happy with my interview, for starters. I don't think I'd be very happy with my presentation that I outlined for my admissions process, which did contain a few details that I'd probably like to omit. But I mean, regardless, I think when you're applying for an MBA, especially the Lancaster MBA, I think the one thing you'll realize is once you do get to the interview stage, it is very important to be genuine, and it's very important to be someone who can tell a story, like someone who can actually speak about themselves and their journey and really highlight what their sort of key achievements were, but also what they want to take out of the MBA, because you don't want to go into an MBA interview with a general answer that you prepared for every single business school, because the reality is that particular story is going to come back. When you meet all these people in your class on the first day, or you meet the academia, or you meet the MBA staff, they're going to ask you something that they may have picked out from your story, and that story has to be consistent, but you have to keep adding on to that story. So my sort of 2 cents would be genuine and have a story. Just have a background story, something about yourself that could really be something that you carry through the MBA.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have another question here in the chat that just says, it would be great to be on the campus and attend classes. Can I share any insight regarding the same, especially at this time? So just in terms of generally moving back to campus, we are in the process of doing that. Some classes are already on campus, and starting on May 17th, we'll be moving back to full-time on campus. And our plan is right now to be full-time face-to-face on campus in September. Of course, that could change, and we always have to adhere to government restrictions and advice. And so we will inform you and keep you informed of any kind of changes to that. But right now, the plan is to return to a more typical kind of face-to-face engagement in the fall. But I want to maybe ask our panelists, what were your impressions of Lancaster? All of you have come from other parts of the world. And so for most of you, at least Lancaster, I think, David, you'd been to Lancaster maybe before, but you arrived. But at least for most of you, Lancaster was new. And so what were your first impressions? And then maybe what are your lasting impressions of Lancaster?
So beautiful. Yeah, sorry, I'll go first. I'll be very quick on this one because I absolutely love Lancaster. When I actually got to Lancaster, it was one of the worst days possibly, because it was raining and it was almost flooded. It was a small city and there was always raining traffic, and I just didn't know my way around, and it was just very overwhelming. But when the sun came out, which was literally the next day, you got to see how beautiful Lancaster was. And I think David and I will sort of say that, you know, him and I absolutely loved Lancaster. We spoke about it a million times after we left the MBA as well. And I'd love to go back. I mean, I'd literally love to go back and just live in Lancaster for 2 weeks because it's beautiful, it's inspiring, it's very personal. You get to think a lot because it's a small town with very minimal distractions, and you're just in a space where psychologically you can get yourself to the right level. So yeah, I mean, my sort of advice would be that check out every sort of nook and cranny of Lancaster when you get there. Check out all the little restaurants, all the little artsy places, the castle, and, you know, just have a good time exploring Lancaster because it's very beautiful.
Yeah, just to add on that, so for me, when I was looking for my MBA, I was looking for a small city because I've been a big city guy, lived in Accra, lived in London and everywhere. So I was looking for, you know, a small city where there'll be minimal distractions. So Lancaster was just perfect for me. And I was very fortunate to live very close to the Williamson's Park. So it was just like 3 minutes from my apartment, which was really nice. So I could go for walks and it was just beautiful. I was able to, because I was living off campus, I was able to build connections with local people who lived in Lancaster. So these are not your, you know, day-to-day students, but these are local residents who live within the community. And I think everybody's really helpful. So I used to, you know, live in London. London is a very, you know, it's huge. Nobody cares about anyone. So I moved to Lancaster, and the first day, people see me and say hi. And I'm like, why is this person saying hi to me? I was really surprised because I wasn't used to this. Like in London, nobody cares about you. People would just meet me on the street, on my road, Bowham Road, and then just say hi to me. And I was like, so I just turned just to be sure that they're actually saying hi to someone else, but not me. And it was actually me. And so like people are really nice in Lancaster, honestly. So that was one of my biggest surprises. Like it was a pleasant surprise, to be fair. They're very nice, and yeah, they like to engage within the community, and it's very green. I love Lancaster with that, you know, it's very green, so many greenery and scenery all around. So yeah.
Absolutely. And I know Chima, I think you lived off campus, but Faze, you lived on campus, is that right?
Yes, Robin, yeah.
Were you happy with the decision?
I think it was off campus. I think for me, it was a bit of culture shock when I arrived because, you know, I was in Lagos. So I think my first impression was how quiet it was. It was like pin drop quiet. But I got to enjoy the serenity. I got to enjoy the attraction, the walks, and then people are genuinely very nice, to be honest. I could remember the first day looking for where my apartment was, and somebody really taking out the day out of their time to actually help me, find the address and help me move a place in. It was shocking, coming from a very large city where nobody looks at you. So it was very exciting. I think I loved every moment there. I wish I hope to go back sometime, especially without the pressure of the MBA program. Just go experience the town. I hope to do that soon. It was very exciting.
Excellent. Faith, you were on campus, right?
Yeah, so for me, Robin, you will not believe, till the second semester, I did not visit the campus properly because the program is so intense from 9 to 6. I really did not get chance to visit around. But once the lockdown happened, I don't know, maybe I was lucky enough, 2 weeks after the lockdown, complete campus was empty. Nobody was there. So me with few flatmates and MBA friends, we used to walk around the campus. And it's such a beautiful campus, believe me, you will think that you should lie down somewhere and just just do the time. It is such a beautiful campus. I still remember during the January or Feb week, I connected with Kana, and I was thinking about pursuing a PhD because I love the campus so much. I wanted to stay there. That was the impression of campus I had in my mind. So I don't know what to say more about campus.
Well, I'm glad you finally explored it and enjoyed it. So maybe this year when we do our induction, we'll make everybody go on a tour of the campus just so they get to explore it and don't take really 2 semesters to do that.
Yeah.
I'm noticing that we've actually hit to the end of our time. I'm not sure if our host is going to come back. Let me just sort of also put this address here for any of you who might have a question about our program. You're always welcome to go to this web address. You can find out more or contact us at mba@lancaster.ac.uk, and we'll be happy to answer. There are a few more questions in the chat. I'll definitely be happy to answer those questions and get you some very detailed responses to that. But before I pass it over to our wonderful host, can I just say to our panelists, it's so good to see your wonderful faces again. It's been too long, and we are definitely going to get together again. So start booking some tickets to Lancaster, to London, and we'll have a party once we can all actually be in the same room together. So looking forward to catching up with you all. Thank you so much for your time today, and I'll pass this over to our lovely host.
Thank you very much, Robin.
Thank you, Robin.
It was really a very, very nice and inspirational panel discussion. We learned that the Lancaster MBA is really a mind-opening experience. So I hope this webinar helped to everyone who attended to finally make their decision to apply and to become part of this wonderful community. So thanks everyone to everyone who attended. I hope we helped you in your academic journey decision, and we wish you good luck in it. And thanks a lot to Robin, Faiz, Chima, David, and Aki. It was really wonderful meeting you and learning more about the Lancaster MBA. And we're looking forward to staying in touch.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Excellent. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.